Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Jared Polly's Fragrance Reviews. Tonight we are going to be investigating one of the finest fragrances in all of history. This fragrance is known as Shalimar, which is from the house of Guerlain. So this came out in 1925, and this is an EDT eau de toilette concentration. The formulation that I have is the most recent. So Shalimar comes from means the temple of love in Sanskrit. This is classified as an oriental fragrance, and this fragrance shows how awesome some fragrances can be. This is an amazing, hypnotizing fragrance that can be worn by men or women. It's mysterious, it's seductive, it's powerful, it's got it all. This is definitely a giant of the past, one of the greatest. And this also shows you that the female scents of the past, whether it's from Guerlain or Chanel, or you even can say Givenchy from various eras, starting all the way from the 20s through the 80s, the female, so-called female fragrances of the past were more masculine than today's men's scents. So the women's fragrances of the past, which I have several, the scents are strong, but they're soft. There's always breathtaking floral notes and compositions. And one thing that I notice, and there was a note that I was always having trouble describing, is that in the vintage fragrances, men or women, there is always, and this doesn't exist in fragrances anymore, always this oily, musky undertone base that was there throughout the whole fragrance, that gave it its vivacity, that gave it its vigor and strength and force. So the OG, the original Shalimar, of course, is 1925. So there's different eras. The 20s and 30s would have been the OG era, and then people would say the 60s, 70s, 80s would be the vintage era. Then there's the modern era. So I'm not sure of how many reformulations that there have been, but in 1990, Shalimar had an EDT formulation as well. So this is a truly memorable, awesome scent. So let's take it out of the package. And just a further note, when I would go around, old shops, antique shops, I did see old Guerlain fragrances in smaller bottles, smaller than this, maybe travel sizes, and it was Mitsuko, and it was Shalimar, and some other great Chanel fragrances from the past. But because they were out of the box, I was never able to verify what era they were from. So I did not buy them, which is somewhat of a regret. But when the price tag is hefty, you have to be cautious. And I know that a lot of unscrupulous sellers will ditch the box in order to convince you that it's an older composition, an older bottle. So always beware. The box is always key to the fragrance just as much as the bottle is. So I'm going to give it a spray in the back of the wrist. So initially, you get a definite heavy, sharp, kind of sweet citrus, which has a variety of mingling floral notes and a touch of vanilla. So this is a strong opening. And after the first couple of minutes, it starts to smooth out a little bit. And you start to be able to discriminate and pick out the different types of notes. So it takes a while for the fragrance to start to separate. But when in the first dry down, you definitely get a vanilla powdery note. You still have the citrus. It's sweet. There's an emphasis on floral notes at this point. And I find that there's like a dark penetration of like a soapy rose, but still it's fruity and it's clean. So there's a lot going on in this fragrance. Very complex. The late dry down, it becomes darker. It becomes almost like a little bit balsamic. There's the vanilla. It's cozy, a little bit sweet. I get a little bit of a sweet tobacco. And it's the tobacco and the floral notes are kind of cutting in and escaping and mingling. And so it's an interesting scent because it always seems to be in a phase of transition and it never really settles. So, like I said earlier, throughout this fragrance, there is this underlying base of a vintage oily musk, which is very natural. And this, I said, does not exist in modern fragrances today. The modern fragrances replace it with some type of synthetic note that is obnoxious or nauseating, something like ambroxan, to give it the vigor and to give it the longevity. This fragrance is different in that way. Even though there may be synthetic notes in this scent, there still is that underlying base. And I would imagine the vintage fragrances would have been much stronger than this bottle I have, but this one is still fantastic. As advertised, it notes off the Guerlain website, there's bergamot, various floral notes in the initial notes. Then the mid notes are iris, jasmine, and rose, and the base notes are tonka and vanilla. So this scent has great longevity. I got this at a very good price. This was not outrageous. The sillage or the sillage is great. It's awesome on the skin. It lasts on the clothes for weeks. I think anybody can wear it. It's largely a amount of experimentation and taste. Men and women, it's a majestic scent. It's very unique. That has a scent that has legendary status. So I encourage not only men, but younger gentlemen to look at some of the vintage female fragrances. There are some amazing leather, floral, smoky, somewhat masculine female fragrances that are still soft and wearable that you may be interested in. Never discount the older vintage female fragrances, because some of them are truly spectacular. And unisex fragrances just did not begin right now in the last 20 years. They've always been around, but they didn't have that title. So if you like this video, please hit the like button, the subscribe button, the notification bell. Any comments or questions you have, leave them down below, and I'll always get back to you. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.